What would you do if the dress your husband gave you meant to say, "I love you," turned out to be evidence of his affair with your best friend? Madeline Brooks thought she was heading for a romantic weekend getaway with her husband. Instead, one tiny tear in a gifted dress unraveled a devastating truth and led her down a path of betrayal, heartbreak, and a life-shattering loss she never saw coming. But this isn't just a story about pain. It's about what happens when a woman refuses to break and chooses to rebuild instead. From hotel suite lies to courtroom showdowns, from hospital grief to viral headlines, Madeline's story will take you to the edge of collapse and show you the power of rising stronger. Stay with us because what happens next will shock you, move you, and maybe even inspire you to reclaim your own power. Have you ever looked at a gift from someone you loved and suddenly felt like it was hiding a lie? Madeline Brooks stared at the cream-colored dress hanging in her closet. It was elegant, understated, exactly her style. Her husband Derek had surprised her with it last week for their upcoming weekend at Willow Pines Lodge, an upscale retreat in Oregon. At first she thought it was sweet, thoughtful even, but something about the way he'd handed it to her, no eye contact, too quick to change the subject, had left her unsettled. Now standing in their bedroom in Fairview, Washington, she finally gave in to that uneasy itch in her chest and decided to try the dress on. She slipped it over her shoulders, zipped the back, and turned to the mirror. That's when she saw it, a small tear just beneath the hem. Barely noticeable, but definitely not new. Her heart gave a small, irrational jolt. Why would a brand new dress have a tear? She reached for Derek's suitcase. He'd packed already for their weekend away. He always packed light, always kept his things neat. But Madeline wasn't looking for neatness now. She was looking for answers. She unzipped the case and froze. Inside wasn't Derek's usual black sweater or khakis. It was packed with women's clothing, but not hers. A red lace bra, perfume. She never wore stilettos, 2 sizes too small. Her throat tightened. One by one, she pulled the items out and laid them on the bed like evidence at a crime scene. Everything screamed another woman, every choice, every scent, every curve of fabric not made for her. She didn't cry, not yet. She zipped the suitcase back up, slowly, methodically. Her hands trembled, but her face was stone. She wouldn't confront him. Not yet. Instead, she waited. 3 days later, Derek pulled up outside Willow Pines Lodge in their black SUV, acting like everything was perfect. Like he wasn't hiding a betrayal in the trunk of the car. Madeline stepped out, plastering on a soft smile, clutching the dress with the repaired hem in her garment bag. Her plan wasn't to make a scene, not right away. She needed to see it with her own eyes first. She needed to catch the lie while it still wore a smile. The resort was beautiful, nestled among tall pine trees, the scent of cedar and fresh rain hanging in the air. Derek walked to the front desk while Madeline lingered behind, pretending to look at brochures. That's when she heard it. 2 rooms under the name Lawson. 1 king suite for Mr. Lawson and Ms. Kaylee Monroe, said the receptionist cheerfully. Madeline's body went cold. The name hit like a slap. Kaylee Monroe, her best friend, her college roommate, her maid of honor, the godmother to her unborn child. Derek didn't even flinch as he accepted the key cards. He didn't look behind him, didn't see Madeline standing there, heart splitting open in real time. She followed him in silence to the elevator, her jaw tight, her steps slow and measured. He stepped out on the 3rd floor. She waited until he opened the door to the suite, waited until he turned inside, and then she knocked. He opened it, expecting room service. He got his wife. Madeline stepped into the room without a word, and there, sitting on the bed in a silky robe holding a glass of champagne, was Kaylee. Kaylee's face dropped. Derek tried to speak, but Madeline held up a hand. Don't say a word. She looked around the room, candles lit, soft music playing, petals on the bed. A romantic getaway meant for 2, but not her. She turned to Derek and asked calmly, "How long has this been going on?" His mouth opened, closed. "It's complicated." "No, it's not," Madeline interrupted. Her voice cracked just once. "It's betrayal?" Kaylee had the audacity to shrug. "You were always too naive, Mads. I didn't think you'd figure it out." Madeline's hands clenched, her breathing shallow. "And I didn't think my best friend would crawl into bed with my husband." The room was silent, tense, poisonous. Madeline turned and walked out without another word. But as she stepped into the hallway, she felt a sharp pain in her abdomen, deep, sudden, and undeniable. She doubled over, her vision blurred. She was 7 weeks pregnant. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. What would you have done if you found your partner's suitcase filled with someone else's clothes? Would you have confronted them right away or waited like Madeline can? Betrayal by a friend hurt even more than betrayal by a lover. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever trusted someone completely, only to discover they were hiding something from you? Comment yes if you've ever felt that gut punch of betrayal. And let us know what country you're watching from. We love hearing your stories. Madeline barely heard Kaylee's shrill gasp as she crumpled in the hallway. All she felt was heat blooming in her abdomen, hot and wrong. The corridor blurred, pine-scented wallpaper, polished sconces twisting into a tunnel. Someone shouted her name. Derek's shoes pounded the carpet. Too late. When Madeline's eyes opened again, ceiling lights flew past like comets. She was on a gurney, the EMT's radio crackling over the rattle of wheels. Pain sheeted through her, but something deeper panic gnawed harder. Please, baby, hold on. Hold on for me. At Cedar Falls Medical Center, the trauma doors burst open. Doctors swarmed. One voice sliced through the haze, steady, resolute. Get her to ultrasound. I'll personally monitor vitals. Dr. Nolan Hart, high school valedictorian turned ER miracle worker, and though Madeline didn't know it yet, the man who'd once carried a silent torch for her, Nolan met her gaze and the terror in her chest loosened, just a fraction. Madeline, stay with me. Breathe slow, count to 4. She did. 1, 2, 3, 4. The pain obeyed. Across the lobby, Derek paced with Kaylee clinging to his arm like ivy. Reporters weren't here yet, but anxious tourists milled around filming on their phones. Nothing like a scandal at a luxury lodge to spike TikTok views. Kaylee hissed, "You told me she wasn't coming. You promised. This isn't my fault." Derek muttered, smoothing back perfect hair already falling out of place. The stress probably triggered it. She always was fragile. Fragile. As if the shards in her life were her own doing. Ultrasound gel cold against warm skin. Monitors beeped. Madeline fixed on Nolan's eyes as he studied the black and white screen. A long, tense silence. Too long. Finally, he exhaled. The embryo detached Mads. His voice pitched low like a condolence whispered at a graveside. "I'm so sorry." In that instant, the future she'd imagined tiny hands nursery paint lullabies evaporated. Madeline felt hollowed out, yet fire-bright with grief. Derek didn't even know she was pregnant. The secret she'd planned to reveal over dinner now lay bleeding inside her. Tears burned, but she forced them back. Not here, not in front of him. Nolan had just finished suturing when Derek burst into the private room, Kaylee trailing like a perfume cloud. "Maddie," she cut him off. "I lost the baby, Derek." His brow knit surprise first, then something like regret. Not grief. She saw that instantly. We can try again," he offered as though suggesting a rematch after a lost tennis set. The world tilted. "Try again. You were reserving king suites with my best friend 30 minutes ago." Kaylee raised her chin. "Maybe if you'd spent more time being a wife." Nolan's hand flexed around the chart. "Ms. Monroe, this is a hospital. Show respect." Kaylee snorted. "And you are the physician keeping Madeline alive?" He answered, cool as December rain. Derek reached for Madeline's hand. She pulled back IV, tugging at her skin. "Don't touch me." Her voice was ice. "Get out, both of you." Derek's jaw tightened. "Be reasonable." Madeline laughed sharp, brittle. "Reasonable? I spent 3 days stitching a rip in a gift you bought your mistress." She lifted her hospital bracelet. "This is your handiwork, Derek." Security arrived. Nolan nodded once. That was all it took. Derek and Kaylee were gently but firmly escorted out. Dawn seeped through half-drawn blinds. Madeline hadn't slept. Loss and adrenaline held her captive. Nolan returned with peppermint tea. "Pain meds?" he asked. She shook her head. "I need clarity, not clouds." They sat in silence until she finally spoke. "You must think I'm pathetic." "I think you're standing in the ruins of trust," he said. But ruins can be rebuilt stronger if you choose the right architect. Warmth flickered behind the ache. She remembered Nolan in 10th grade chemistry, steady hands, patient explanations. He hadn't changed. The world had finally given her a reason to notice. Madeline inhaled. "I can't go back to that lodge." "You won't," he promised. "I already discharged you against medical advice, technically. Doctor's orders you're coming with me to Greenview Cottage. It's quiet and paparazzi don't know it exists." Her brows lifted. "Is that ethical?" He smiled a gentle curve. "Perfectly. I'm off shift in an hour. You need rest in a safe place. That's medicine." Meanwhile, Derek scrolled feverishly through social media in the lodge bar. Comments exploded under a tourist post labeled "Jariang Cheater in Chief Married CEO Caught with Best Friend While Wife Hospitalized." His stock price trembled. Board members texted furious demands. Kaylee tried to cling. "We can spin this. Say she's unstable." "Unstable doesn't lose billion-dollar sponsors," Derek snapped. For the first time, Kaylee saw fear in him. Fear of consequences money couldn't bribe. Across town, a lawyer quietly drafted divorce papers. Madeline's maiden name, Brooks, would soon headline every business blog in the Pacific Northwest. But Madeline didn't know that yet. She was in Nolan's old Jeep, winding through misty forest roads toward Greenview Cottage, wrapped in a wool blanket that smelled faintly of cedar and hope. She stared out the window, mind racing. Her marriage lay in tatters, her child was gone, and betrayal burned like coals under her ribs. Yet somehow, amidst the loss, a fierce determination took root. She would not break quietly. At the cottage, birdsong drifted through open windows. Nolan brewed coffee, while Madeline showered, washing hospital-scent antiseptic and heartache down the drain. She stepped out wrapped in a borrowed flannel shirt, feeling more herself than she had in months. Nolan set 2 mugs on the table. "When you're ready, we can talk next steps, legal, emotional, all of it." Madeline nodded, fingers curling around warm ceramic. "I don't know what tomorrow looks like." "Maybe you don't need to," he said. "Tomorrow can introduce itself." She met his eyes, clear, steady, unwavering, and for the first time since the hallway collapse, she allowed one tear to fall. Not for what she'd lost, but for what she might yet reclaim. Rain fell in silver threads outside Greenview Cottage as dawn broke, but inside, Madeline Brooks felt lighter than she had in years. Nolan Hart sleeves, rolled hair tousled, stood at the kitchen counter, whisking pancake batter like it held the secret to peace on earth. "You really don't have to cook," Madeline teased, settling onto a stool. He glanced back with a half smile. "Consider it step 1 of the recovery plan: carbs and caffeine." But the recovery plan was already in motion. Overnight, Nolan's attorney friend had delivered a draft divorce agreement that made 2 things crystal clear. Derek would walk away with none of Madeline's inheritance, and Kaylee's name would be explicitly cited as co-respondent, an elegant legal nod to the affair that tabloids had devoured all night. Madeline scrolled the morning news on her phone. Lawson lies unravel. Stock plummets, 43% blared across every business feed. She should have felt triumphant. Instead, she felt done. The chapter was closed. She didn't need vengeance to stamp it shut. Thinking about Derek, Nolan asked, stacking pancakes. Madeline set the phone down. Thinking about what comes after Derek. She drew a breath. "Nolan, I want my pain to matter. I want other women who feel trapped to know there's a way out." He nodded, listening the way doctors do, eyes on her words withheld until they added value. "I've got some savings, a house I never loved, and a story that's exploding online," she continued. "What if I turn that spotlight into something useful? A foundation to help women rebuild after betrayal, financial planning, counseling, legal advice?" Nolan's grin spread slowly like sunrise over water. "The Breakaway Fund," he said. "Name it after the moment you chose yourself." Madeline's pulse skipped. The Breakaway Fund. It sounded like possibility. 2 weeks later, Madeline walked into a polished conference room in downtown Seattle. Reporters packed the space, their lenses hungry for the woman at the center of the viral scandal, who had until now remained silent. She wore a navy sheath dress, not the cream-colored lie, and a simple silver necklace. Beside her stood Nolan, relaxed but alert, the quiet anchor she leaned on through sleepless nights. "Good morning," she began, her voice steady. "You know pieces of my story. You've seen the headlines. Today I want to redirect that attention. She told them everything: the suitcase, the tear in the dress, the miscarriage, the betrayal. Gasps rippled through the room, but she held their gaze. "I could drown in anger," she said, "or I can build something from the wreckage." She unveiled the breakaway fund, pledging the proceeds from her Fairview house sale, all $650,000 to seed it. A reporter raised a hand. "Ms. Brooks, any comments on Derek Lawson's countersuit claiming emotional distress?" Madeline met the question with calm steel. "Derek built his distress brick by brick. I merely turned on the lights." The conference erupted in applause. Cameras flashed. By noon, the fund's donation page crashed under the weight of small contributions from every corner of the globe. $10 here, $5 there, a cascade of solidarity. While Madeline stepped into purpose, Derek and Kaylee spiraled. With the company's board voting to remove him, Derek tried a last-minute settlement offering to concede everything if Madeline released a statement blaming irreconcilable differences instead of infidelity. The answer arrived via certified mail. Kaylee discovered her name on a lawsuit from Derek's shareholders for damages. Suddenly, the glamorous affair looked more like a liability, and Derek's once perfect hair now streaked gray. Madeline heard the updates but felt nothing sharper than distant pity. That part of her life had burned to ashes. Ashes weren't worth sculpting. One cool Saturday, Madeline and Nolan drove back to Willow Pines Lodge, not for revenge, but closure. She walked the same hallway where her world had cracked open and paused outside the suite door, now scrubbed of rose petals and secrets. Nolan squeezed her hand. "Ready?" She nodded, exhaling. "Goodbye, room 314. It sounded silly, but naming the wound made it less powerful. They hiked a forest trail afterwards, pines whispering overhead. Halfway up, Nolan stopped, breath visible in the crisp air. "I've loved you since sophomore year biology," he said, cheeks flushed. "Maybe from altitude, maybe from courage. But I never said it because you deserved a man who saw you not chase your shadow." He inhaled. "I see you, Mads. All of you. And if you ever," Madeline pressed a finger to his lips. "I'm not ready for forever," she said honestly, "but I'm ready for honest." He smiled. "Honest is my favorite language." They continued upward the trail, steep but clear, the view widening with each step. Seattle's waterfront sparkled beneath spring sun as the breakaway gala filled the Pier 57 ballroom. Survivors flew in from Ohio, Ireland, Morocco. Women who'd left toxic marriages started small businesses, finished degrees. Madeline, now executive director Brooks, greeted them like sisters. Derek, he'd faded from headlines, teaching overpriced marketing webinars to stay afloat. Kaylee managed social media for a chain of tanning salons. Some stories resolved themselves. Nolan found Madeline beside the railing watching the harbor. He offered a glass of sparkling cider, her new celebratory drink of choice. "Board asked me to pass this on," he said, handing her an envelope stamped United States Nonprofit Excellence Awards. "Inside Breakaway Fund, National Impact Honoree." Madeline laughed, a sound full and bright. "We're legit. You were legit the moment you believed you could be." She took his hand, lace of city lights twinkling below. Maybe she still wasn't ready for forever, but forever didn't scare her anymore. Tonight was a testament. Betrayal could rip you open, but what you plant in the scar is up to you. Madeline had chosen something that grew. Thanks for watching. Sorry for the interruption, but we hope you will help us improve our content in the future. Which moment hit you hardest? Madeline's hospital collapse, the press room stand, or Derek's downfall? Tell us why. Did the ending satisfy your sense of justice, or would you have written a different fate for Derek and Kaylee? If you enjoyed this story, comment 100 below, let us know which country you're watching from, and share the video so more people can feel the hope in Madeline's journey. Thank you for being part of our storytelling family.